want to call to order the January 7th, 2016. It's 15 on the notes here, but 2016. Formal session of the Yamhill County Commissioners. It's now 10:02 a.m. How'd I do, Chuck? That was good. All right.
I was pleased that you noticed the 15. Just saying.
All right. Lucy, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, Happy New Year. We're on to a clean slate and resolutions and all kinds of fun stuff. And I hope everybody has a breakthrough year in all the stuff that they go after and want to accomplish this year. And I welcome you to this meeting. Now we're going to go into a invocation. And Commissioner Primozic, would you take over, please?
Yes, I would. I would like at this time to introduce Mr. Mark Wickman. Sorry, Mark. Mr. Wickman is the managing director of a financial services business here in town, Wickman, Patterson, and Corrigan Associates. Has bachelor's and master's both from Linfield College. He and his wife, Lynn, been married for 28 years, have 2 grown children. Mark's been very active in the community in a number of different ways. Speaks often at various meetings on small business. That's his specialty, helping small businesses. He's the author of the book Wealth or Well, the Redefining Financial Freedom, and is currently working on his second book. And he has graciously agreed to join us today and do our invocation, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you, Mark.
Good morning. Would you bow your heads with me? God our Father, we're grateful for freedom, and we don't want to take that for granted. In your great love and mercy, you give us choice. In your word, you instruct us to pray for our leaders, so we do that today, right now. We desire and believe you desire that they desire to come and help them act where they're able to act. Help them remain silent where they are to remain silent. Thanks for their service and their willingness to serve. Grant them wisdom to know the wise thing to do. And grant them courage to lead and to act in the way of that wisdom. Amen.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. One thing I
I
failed to mention, you see how tall Mark is. He did play professionally in Europe, played basketball in Europe professionally for a few years also. So.
Well, that was what I was going to say. Is my memory serves me right, he was a pretty good ball player too. Back in the Ted Wilson days, right? Those were the days.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, at this time we're going into a public comment period. Set aside a 30-minute period for public comment on any other topic other than quasi-judicial matters or topics scheduled for public hearing. I have some names, and as I call your name, come forward, state your name and address for the record, and we have 3 minutes. Chuck will be timing that for you. Doug Bucks? Rux? I'm sorry. A lot of people need to be sent to penmanship school. I'm just saying. No.
Thank you, Chair Springer and Commissioners. Doug Rux, Community Development Director, City of Newburgh, 414 East 1st Street, Newburgh, Oregon. I'm here today to talk about the item on your agenda related to the Newburgh-Dundee bypass. ODOT has submitted to the city an application to amend our transportation system plan, which is a portion of our comprehensive plan, to modify an intersection design that is very prescriptive, that ODOT came to the city back in 2012 and the council adopted in 2013 that design configuration for that particular intersection. It's been brought to my attention that there is the idea of going to LCDC to get a determination, a compatibility determination done about the bypass and this particular component as it relates to the acknowledged comprehensive plans. This is brought forth by Yamhill County, City of Wilsonville, and Clackamas County. So I quickly went back through the transportation system plan that Yamhill County recently adopted and has acknowledged. Our transportation plan from 2005 is acknowledged as well. We're working on an update to that. But you have tech memos as part of your TSP, and in tech memo number 3, Wilsonville Road is classified as a minor arterial. It used to be a major collector in your old TSP. There are several figures in that particular document that I think are pertinent to this, because part of it is what would be the issue of going to LCDC? What are you trying to determine compatibility with? You have an acknowledged transportation system plan. But Wilsonville Road has an existing average daily trip count of 3,000 to 6,000. In 2035, it's projected to be between 3,000 and 6,000. By Yamhill County staff at a hearing in Newburgh on December 10th, it was stated that the average daily trips today is 2,500. So you're not even at your minimum of 3,000 now. But you could go up to 6,000 on that roadway in the future as a minor arterial. Corral Creek and Rennie Road. Corral Creek has less than 1,000 trips on it. Rennie Road has less than 1,000 trips. In the future, it'll both, in 2035, will both have less than 1,000 trips projected on them. There's some information on crash in figure 15 of your transportation system plan. And Wilsonville Road does have some higher volumes than the state average, but so does Rennie Road. And so part of this issue is redirecting traffic, and so it's the through versus the no-through movement. The no-through movement would divert traffic into the city streets of Newburgh, and as we've talked with the engineer that's representing the Lad Hill Neighborhood Association, you disperse that traffic out to Fernwood, Corral Creek, and Rennie Road. If you look at your own transportation system plan, you have safety issues and concerns on Corral Creek and Rennie Road that are worse than they are on Wilsonville Road. You also have a corridor health that's in your TSP, and it rates Wilsonville Road as good. There's more detail behind that. You can look at those particular provisions.
Time, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Are you wound up, or I'd give you another minute if you need it.
I think one of the pieces I think is important to note is that Yamhill County, the City of McMinnville, City of Dundee, the City of Newburgh have all financially participated in development of the bypass. It's not strictly a Jobs and Transportation Act fund. Yes, there's about $192 million of funds from the state, but there's $20 million between the local communities in Yamhill County that are going to develop and construct the bypass project.
Okay. Next, we have Bob Andrews.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Bob Andrews, Newburgh Mayor, 414 East First, City Hall. And I'm here to provide some remarks more on form than on content on the consideration of approval of a submittal of letter on the Newburgh-Dundee bypass. From looking at the initial draft to the draft that you'll be considering today, I applaud the change from sending a letter to the governor to one to Mr. Rue of Land Conservation and Development. I appreciate that. But I am concerned about some of the form. When I looked at the original draft, and I'm asking a question, I realize you will not answer it, but you may want to contemplate on it. Have the other jurisdictions, the City of Wilsonville, City Council, and or the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners adopted this letter as a formal activity? I'm concerned about that. I notice in the proposed CCs that it is recommended that, or desired that the copy of this be sent to the state representative, Mr. John Davis, and I appreciate that. I think that's good, but I would also question why the state representative for Newburgh was not also CC'd on this particular communication, Mr. Bill Post, and why our state senator, Kim Thatcher, was not CC'd on this. I'm also concerned that there has been no vetting of this particular letter with your own advisory body, the Yamhill County Parkway Committee, which is representative of a number of communities in Yamhill County, not just Newburgh, and it also includes the tribes. And I did not see that they had been involved in this. And I also noted that the proposed CCs included the school district of West Lynn, Wilsonville, but did not include the school district of Newburgh, which has some interest in the movement of students and the safety of students in its district. But I think most disturbing is I did not see any CC being sent to either the city or to Newburgh City Council, the city of Newburgh or the City Council of Newburgh, as an advisory of your having taken this particular action. Those are questions of form that I bring to your attention. I would hope you would give those consideration. My last comment is that I would urge your not signing this letter, but at the least, I recommend that you defer any further consideration pending staff's full vetting of the issues previously brought out in testimony. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks,
Thank
Bob.
you. Denise Bacon.
Hi,
Morning.
Denise Bacon, Newburgh City Council, 1015 South Pacific Street, Newburgh. The part that confuses me is that this plan all along, and if we change it now, all we're going to really do is disrupt Newburgh neighborhoods, and the traffic is still going to go on Wilsonville Road. So changing it now really does nothing, making it inconvenient for people who already use Wilsonville Road to get to work from Newburgh. They'll just go through our community streets and still end up on Wilsonville Road. So I hope that you consider not signing this letter and leaving things the way they currently are. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Mike, Carrie? Corey. I'm going to have to send you there, too. I get to interpret these.
Corey said I missed my doctor calling.
Yes, yeah, I would say that looks a lot like, actually, it's a little better than my doctor, but.
Mike Corey, 905 Marie Avenue, also Newburgh City Council. Pretty much what I have to say has been said, so I'm not going to reiterate, but I did want to talk real briefly about what Doug talked about earlier. Already, the TSP has been approved by Yamhill County and the city. It's already been adopted, and there's no need for change. As Doug pointed out, the safety issues on Rennie and Corral Creek already exist, and they'll only get worse if there's no through design. And in addition to that, not only those roads, but roads in the city of Newburgh will also be affected, and probably there will be, well, no doubt there's going to be safety issues on Newburgh City roads if if the through design is not gone ahead. I again urge you not to sign that letter and to keep the TSP as it is, as adopted, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you very much. Okay. That moves us into the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda as written.
Motion before the board to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Chair, I just wanted
Yes.
to add
Okay.
one thing. This will effectuate the change as outlined in your procedures ordinance 868 to act as the election of a chair and vice chair. As laid out in the liaison assignments, Commissioner Sterrett would assume the chair, Commissioner Primozic would be the vice chair.
Okay. And so approving the consent agenda would take care of that for us.
Correct. Item 1 under the consent agenda, approval of the 2016 VOC liaison assignments.
Okay, perfect. So, in light of that, there's a motion before the board to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. So at this point,
Oh, don't give her that one.
I'm going to pass the golden baton and a couple of things to you there.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
At this point, we have no old business with item D, other business, which is consideration of approval of the submittal of a letter for the Newburgh-Dundee bypass. We've heard some comments in our first opening public comment period, and I'd like to address some of those. But before we do that, we had received a letter last night after the initial letter that we had discussed during informal. And this was a letter that I didn't see until 9-something last night, and actually spoke with Chair Ludlow from Clackamas County this morning about it. And subsequent to that, had discussions with county councils and got some additional information. So my recommendation at this point, since we were considering the first letter, is to not consider that letter, but to replace it with the consideration of the letter that was discussed this morning. And that was where we are going to pick this up at this point. So a couple of comments I'd like to make regarding this. I appreciate everyone coming here today to really add some clarity. One of the concerns about this whole process was that we didn't have a mechanism, a procedure whereby we could all pretty much discuss the concerns we had at this late date. Now, I've been to hearings at the City Council and heard a variety of different concerns from the Lat Hill Neighborhood Association. And one of the pieces that's sort of sticks with me is that a lot of the information that led to the through determination, I believe, was predicated on incomplete information, and that was a traffic impact study. And I think that that is critical to any decision that is made here, is that we're predicating our decisions based on, I hate to say false information, but not complete information. So if the traffic impact safety wasn't done to show just how severe the traffic impact would be, how then could what follows it have any integrity? And I think, Mr. Mayor, you had some really good points, and these are really good questions. And again, since the engineer, the policy advisors in Clackamas County and County Council in Clackamas County put this letter together and handed it over to us, we're kind of left with a product that we now have to say either thumbs up or thumbs down. Because of what's in here and because of this compatibility procedure, it really falls short of what our stated goal was, which is to really just the collaboration, almost like a mediation process, to say we understand what Newburgh's concerns are. We certainly understand what those who travel Wilsonville Road's concerns are, and those who live on Wilsonville Road. But to your point, Mr. Mayor, when you talked about the fact that the Parkway Committee had not received this, the tribes had no information about this, you'd not received information, the City Council, the Newburgh School District, I think those are all very valid points. And those are it's kind of a deal breaker in as much as this is information that should have been handed off to them as well. So to that, I would say that this is why at this particular point, my recommendation would be that we address these concerns, look at the fact that this compatibility procedure is a mechanism that any jurisdiction can get involved with and can ask for. So I'm glad that they pulled the governor out of the mix here, because I never did understand why we were going to the governor. And I'm glad that we're going to be able to discuss this a little bit more. But there's an awful lot at stake here, and I think there's no easy answer because everybody's got some skin in this game. Commissioner?
Yes, I agree. To your point, Mayor, in my recommendations on that initial letter, I had sent back to the drafters of that letter that we needed to CC the very people you mentioned. And then when this new letter came out of Clackamas County, those were not done, along with several shortfalls that you mentioned. My concern, and I've been on record with this, as you recall, at the Parkway Committee, which I attend on a regular basis, I have made it very clear I have great concerns about this traffic being routed to making Wilsonville Road the default extension of the bypass, which the through automatically does. As we all know, Springbrook will fail almost immediately. There's no way that's going to take that kind of traffic. That intersection at Springbrook and 99 is it's a disaster already, and it's not going to get better with the bypass dumping that traffic on there. So none of the things that we're talking about are a solution other than the completion of the bypass up Rex Hill, which we are hopeful, given the fact that this is a critical corridor in the FAST Act that was passed by Congress, that we could possibly see some movement in that direction. We have concerns because of timing with the fact that there are people in the Newburgh area planning to do some development on that right of way, which could seriously impact or hinder that movement. So there's a lot of moving parts to this, and the people who have concerns are trying to find a way of bringing the jurisdictions together and see if we can't drive and possibly, as 4 jurisdictions, bring some pressure to bear that would move this project into phase 2 and avoid the conflict of this intersection. Everybody keeps talking about not having enough money, and yet the screaming will be intense when we start having a number of accidents, no matter where they are, whether they're in the neighborhoods in Newburgh or on Wilsonville Road. And so all of our traffic designs, the number one issue is safety, and that's been my concern from the very outset. I am late to the game. I've only been on the Parkway Committee for a year, but this letter, being late as it is, does not do everything we want it to do. I believe that at this point in time, I would like to see us continue to pursue solutions. I'm not completely convinced that this letter says everything we want it to say. I agree wholeheartedly that it does not. It did not go to all of the parties that it should have gone to. So signing this letter today, I don't think is in the best interest of any of our jurisdictions, but I think that I would like to go on record as saying my concerns remain the same. I do want to continue to work with Clackamas County, the City of Wilsonville, the Ladhood Neighborhood Association, and the City of Newburgh in finding a solution. I personally do not see the through as the correct solution. How we can moderate how we can in some way make that different. I'm not a traffic engineer. I don't know how to design roads, but it doesn't take a genius to drive Wilsonville Road and know that with the current traffic, it's already a major problem. As you indicated, Mr. Rux, we already have a significant higher number of accidents on that road than in other areas. I've driven that many times to look at my own concerns. I've driven the neighborhoods that the mayor pointed out to me when he was sharing his concerns with me. I've driven those neighborhoods. I don't want that traffic either of those places, but if we make any one of those the automatic default for the termination of this bypass, we're going to create unintended but significant consequences. So I want to pursue a letter to LCDC, and the determination, I think, would help to bring the jurisdictions together, maybe finding a resolution. The construction packet has already gone out, but this can be done as a change order to changing that configuration. I don't have the perfect answer, but Wilsonville Road is not it. So That's my thought on it at this point in time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Springer?
Yeah, I will not be signing this letter for a number of concerns. I'm a lifelong resident here and have watched this process, go on and on and on and be discussed for decades. And Newburgh has sacrificed greatly in this process. They have been the avenue of traffic for too many years. And even in the construction and the implementation of the bypass, they're sacrificing. The big pillars and overpasses that are between what I would call Smurfit and their residential area will be there forever. The landing place out south of the airport onto 219 is going to be there for a while until we move and fix that. And so I would say that the impact and the skin in the game for Newburgh is extremely higher than it is for McMinnville, that it is for even Dundee or the tribes. So we have the tribes involved, we have McMinnville involved, we have Dundee involved, Newburgh involved, and Yamhill County involved. Those are the primary folks I'm concerned about. I hear Stan talking about safety, and exactly, safety is the concern. I don't think dumping more problems onto Newburgh is prudent. A guy with local knowledge like myself, I may default to come in between PCC and the golf course by the hospital. That's a residential, fully developed area over the last number of years with the golf course and D.R. Horton's developments in there, and we've got people interacting there in a way that we don't have on Wilsonville Road. Not to say that Wilsonville Road is the perfect road. I've commuted Wilsonville Road, in my opinion, you commute that about once, and you figure out that McCabe Road is where you want to go. So anymore, regardless of how I'm coming through Newburgh, I'm heading to McCabe Road to cut through to I-5. Much better road, straighter, wider, et cetera, et cetera. I just received this final copy as I sat down here at the table. That's kind of strange. I mean, we talked about it on Tuesday, and we had one draft, and we looked at that a little bit, and then had a robust conversation then. Very, my fellow commissioner, and so I've just getting my head wrapped around this, and I've spent the last 24 hours grabbing department heads and council and trying to get my mind wrapped around this. And I feel like we need to take a look at this in depth more, involve the bypass committee in this process continually, because they have given thousands of hours, volunteer hours to this process. And I'm just surprised at that. I thought the mayor brought up a good point that I hadn't thought about, but all those people hadn't been CC'd, hadn't been let know what's going on, weren't brought up to speed by this, and now we have this document wanting to be voted in or okayed today and signed and sent off. I just think it may sound odd to say this related to the bypass, but this is a bit of a rush. The bypass, has been a lifelong. Dave Hageberg was here. He's going to get the Lifetime Achievement Award for that, because I think he's been involved with it for 30 plus years. So I think this needs to really be run by the major players. And I take your point. We discussed this the other day about skin in the game. I understand there's going to be some impact out there at some point to other communities. But Wilsonville declared that road a minor arterial years ago. I believe in the Newburgh TSP, that was declared a minor arterial a while back. And so it's not news to everybody that has been there for a while. And I don't think those particular issues have been discussed or fully understood. I certainly didn't understand that last night. I understood that this morning. So I think there's a lot to look in about this. And remember, I will just say this for myself, is we are representatives, elected representatives of Yamhill County. And I think that carries some weight in this decision, and the cooperative nature we want to have as those elected representatives to all the players that we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, financially that are involved deeply in this, sacrificially to a certain extent, and more so towards Newburgh. So those are my comments, and I appreciate your consideration of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think this compatibility determination proceeding is a mechanism that really does allow for collaboration and for cooperation and for significant communication. Now, again, I go back to the piece that I'm a resident of Newburgh, and I go by Springbrook every single day, and I have opted not to go down Wilsonville Road, which would be faster for me, because I frankly almost interfaced with a couple of large trucks, and I have neighbors who have been impacted literally been hit. We do have a significant danger on Wilsonville Road, and I think that what this says is that with additional traffic, we can only expect more. I don't know that, and I don't want to get melodramatic here, but I don't want to wind up after somebody else has been broadsided or hit or, God forbid, killed, and say that we did not do our due diligence, because these are not just residents of Wilsonville or Clackamas County. These are Yamhill County residents and Newburgh residents who use that road, and if there is more traffic on it, we're only going to see more actual impact. So I think when we talk about lives and when we talk about safety, we have to remember we're talking about the lives and the safety of our constituents, as you know, it's as simple as that. So at this particular point, my recommendation is that County Council take a look at what the compatibility determination proceeding actually would involve, and to take a look at LCDC and whether or not this is the right vehicle and the right forum and the right venue to discuss this. And then we come back, and again, we were kind of getting the bums rush because of there was an urgency because the Newburgh City Council is going to be voting on this, urgency because Clackamas County would be voting on next Tuesday. And so getting this at this 11th hour, I think, is not in anybody's best interest, because we really haven't looked deeper into our TSP to see whether or not this actually, does have any bearing to what our concerns are. Counselor, did you have anything that you wanted to add regarding the procedure, the process itself that we haven't addressed, maybe?
No, I think you're following the process of considering whether or not to send this letter, and that's where we are.
Okay.
So at this time, would you entertain a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion for D1 to not approve D1.
We have a motion to not approve D1. Any discussion, further discussion?
Well, there is a motion on the floor, but the vote has not been called for. I would like to suggest, I am still in favor of approaching, if it need be, LCDC or whatever jurisdiction is necessary to get a change made. So I would certainly be willing to see this set aside for at least another week to get all the players on board that were brought to our attention by the mayor, and to make certain that this is in fact a final draft, because they've been coming at a rapid pace over the last week. And once we have something that is representative of our attempt, or what we're attempting to do, then to pass on it. I am willing to not sign off on a letter today, but I do not want anybody to think that I'm not ready to bring forward another letter next week that is better representative of what we're doing here. So that would be my comments.
Yes, additionally, I would like to say that I believe that we need to do a little bit more due diligence on this, on the process, on the compatibility determination proceeding, on the whole concept of LCDC and our comprehensive plans and all the 3 local governments. So I am in favor of considering sending this to LCDC, but at this point, this is not the letter, this is not the right letter to send. So I would be in favor of removing the submittal of this letter for approval at this particular time.
So there was a.
There's a
prior-
motion on the
Yeah.
floor.
Right.
Call for the
Are
question.
you withdrawing
No.
your motion? Or-
No.
So your motion was to not approve the submittal of this letter?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'd like to call for a vote on that.
Okay, and if the other two are not in favor of not approving, then you could vote against the motion not to approve, and then you could possibly have a further discussion about whether you want to table it for another week, or if you would like to put forward an alternative motion.
Well, at this particular point, I am not in favor of, I am
This
not
letter.
saying we're saying we're talking about the submittal of this letter.
That's correct.
So I am not in favor of submitting this
Right,
letter.
That's not exactly what his motion was. His motion was to not approve the submittal of
A letter.
No, my motion was to not approve D1.
which is approval of the submittal of a letter for the Newburgh Dundee bypass.
Okay, and the A letter that we're talking about is what the draft we had today.
Well, the finer point on this is a letter or
Correct.
you know, and so that's really what
This
we're talking
letter.
about.
This
Because if
letter.
we approved this, what would we be approving?
If you were.
Semantics, but they're
This
important.
letter.
A?
Right.
Correct.
What does A mean?
And so by disapproving it, I don't know how you can split hairs and say, we're not
So-
talking about this letter.
Would you like to restate your motion?
No, I'd like to.
Well,
I
it
mean-
sounds like your motion is to not adopt this letter. Is that?
That's
is that
correct. Yeah.
Okay. Then I think you can.
I didn't understand we were talking about anything greater than that
Okay.
at this point.
If
Oh,
that's understood by
absolutely.
the balance of the board, you can vote on that motion.
Okay, so at this point, we have a motion, item D1, consideration approval of the submittal of a letter for the Newburgh Dundee bypass. And I guess at this point, we're just going to vote on that. So all in favor of not submitting this letter?
I'm sorry, you said a letter, then you said this letter.
A
I
letter.
want to know what I'm voting on, please. Are we talking about, we're saying no to this letter, or are we saying no to sending a letter?
I don't think
Because
we
that's-
have that before us. We are
Well, that's
talking
what
about a
D1
specific letter.
says,
That's what it says.
Commissioner.
I understand, but
Yeah.
if we were voting to approve, it would have been which letter?
It would have been the letter that's in front of us right
Absolutely.
now.
So how can we not,
So your
if
motion
we're not
is-
approving it, how does it go any wider or different than not approving this letter? I don't get it.
Well-
So the motion is to not approve this letter.
That's correct.
Okay, so
That answers your
this
question?
letter.
That answers my question.
Okay,
I'm fine with
all right.
that.
The motion before us is consideration of approval of submitting this letter to LCDC.
The motion was to not approve submitting this letter.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, all right. All those in favor of not submitting the letter, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Okay, all righty. Public hearings, we have none. Announcements? Any announcements?
So would you like to then state for the record that this issue is going to be tabled and brought back before the board at a particular time?
Yes, I would like to see, and I would like to ask council to weigh in on this, whether or not we have another week that would give us enough time to, number one, look at the TSP, look at the LCDC component in this, and see whether or not a compatibility determination proceeding would actually get us to the place where we want to be. Those are the three main questions that were left hanging out here.
And Madam Chair, I believe that you do, and it's because these other jurisdictions could initiate this process even without you. And we would be the first one, we would have been the first ones to act on it today, so there is still time to act on it, and we can look into it and bring it back for consideration of an amended letter next week.
I'm not sure that a week is enough to send out all these and get feedback from all these different entities. Maybe it is, I don't know. That seems pretty short notice to the school board, to the bypass committee, to all the folks that were the city council, those folks to chime in on that seems pretty tight.
And if you table it for a week and we're not ready next week, you can table it for an additional week, or as much time as you.
Or we can start the process and send out the letters and find out what kind of a response we're getting, because we can schedule it, Thursday morning if we have to, as an add-on item. I don't know, putting a target out there, especially one that tight. If we go to a couple weeks, maybe we could do that, and if we had the information back quicker, we can certainly adjust our agenda to.
May I
be
make a
quicker.
recommendation? The Parkway Committee meets on the 21st, and all of the jurisdictions mentioned are participants of Parkway Committee, and that's on the 21st. I will be present at that, and at that point in time, it would be a place to make a determination whether we wanted. They would all have this information and could speak to it at that time. We can make certain that they have that, and we could bring it to as an add-on on that Thursday, then the 21st, because we will be meeting again on that date if that meets with everybody's approval.
That makes sense.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Everybody's there in one place. All righty, well then that's the way we'll leave it. Okay. All right, announcements. We have no other announcements, so at this point we'll adjourn the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners meeting January 7th, 2016. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate your
It's
input.
10.